Oh, 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 that's cool. Okay. I like that. I like where you went with this one. I even put a picture in. That's so funny. Person saw the last person that won and tried to make it the same thing. I see. I'm on to you. I love hearing people's interpretation of the game that have never played a Souls game before, and they're like, it's like they're playing a Picasso painting. Like they have no idea what's going on. It's really funny how people interpret something that is just totally foreign to them. It's really cool. What is going on, guys? A happy Friday to you, and welcome to Feenux Fashion Frames Fridays, Episode 2. I'm BouseFeenux, and this week's theme was SoulsFrames. So, basically what I was looking for was something kind of in the universe of Dark Souls, and it doesn't have to necessarily be a character from Dark Souls, although that kind of helps. I'm just looking for Dark Souls-inspired themes, and boy did you guys deliver. I had a lot of really great submissions. I didn't have as many submissions as I did last time, and I feel like that's because people just, maybe a lot of you haven't played Dark Souls, and that's what I was getting a lot in the descriptions and stuff like that was, I've never played this game before, but I did some research and stuff like that, but regardless of those things, you guys came up with some really awesome submissions, and I am super excited to show you guys my favorites. So, without further ado, let's hop over to the dojo and take a look at those. Alrighty folks, welcome to the dojo, and as you can see, I decided to get into this theme as well. This is my Faram armor set. Now, the Faram armor set is pretty much the flagship set of armor from Dark Souls 2. It's the armor that the main character is wearing on the box art of Dark Souls 2. So, I'm really excited to get into your guys' submissions, though, and we're gonna start as we did last time with PC. Let's jump on in. Our first submission for PC comes from user Rayadox, and he says, I tried to make the armor of Artorias the Abyss Walker on my Oberon. I chose the Artorias armor because it was, in my opinion, the best looking one in game. As for the colors, I picked dark gray and some light blue to match them with the Artorias armor. I chose the Oberon Oryx helmet because it fits the dark theme the most. It even reminds me of a Black Knight helmet from Dark Souls 1. I tried my best to pay attention to every little detail, like for example the Edo shoulder plate and Galatine to match his big sword and shoulder plate. It was hard to find a picture of a character that I could use, but then I finally found this one and immediately thought about Oberon because he has the knightish feel to it. So first I gotta say, Rayadox, fantastic submission, man. I love Artorias. Artorias was one of my favorite boss fights in Dark Souls 1. I was always really excited to fight him in the DLC, and I gotta say, dude, I think the Abyss Walker himself would have been proud to be represented in such a way. Now, that being said, let's move on to the next submission. Our second PC submission comes from user Tyhark, and he says, for the Dark Souls theme, I made a list of recognizable NPCs and bosses that the DS community knows and loves and tried to recreate them in Warframe 1 by 1. My first two attempts, Solaire the Sun Bro and our mate the Onion Bro, were failures since their design was impossible to copy in a good-looking manner, mainly because of their helmets, weapons, and physiques. After these initial tries, I decided to take a look at Ornstein and Smo, the bosses many of us still remember and are traumatized about. Smo failed since, again, his body was incompatible with any frame currently in the game, so I went with Ornstein and was quickly surprised how close I could get to his design. I chose Ash as the foundation because his helmet fit perfectly. The Locust helmet is so good because the dangling red something reminding me of the red hair coming out of the back of Ornstein's helmet. The shape was nice too, since the sharp edges on the side of the Locust helmet are similar to those on Ornstein's helmet. The Ash Immortal skin was perfect as well, since I could both color the hair on the helmet red and recreate the red cloth Ornstein wears underneath his armor. After that, the design of the body was a piece of cake. I added the Daedalus chest plate and the shoulder plates, just as well as the Edo knee plates to make Ash look as if he wore golden armor. The weapon was another factor which was slightly problematic this week. There are no real spears in Warframe, so I had to look through the list of weapons available in the game and decided to go with the Tonbow. When it comes to weapons in Warframe, that's as close as I could get. As a nice little detail, I put an electrical damage mod on the spear, although the electrical damage mod is not as yellow in DS. Oh well. Don't forget to praise the sun. Okay, first of all, I always praise the sun. Here's a clip. Oh man, dude, Ornstein and Smo, these guys were the hardest bosses I had ever fought in any game ever. And Dark Souls 1 was the first Dark Souls game I'd ever played, so when I got to these guys, I got constantly wrecked over and over and over again until I finally beat them. So I really loved your submission, dude. You did a really great job with what was available. I know, again, guys, it was really hard to do this one because you're trying to make a Warframe look like something else in a completely different game with a totally different art style, but as I said before, you guys have been doing a fantastic job. Let's take a look at the last PC submission. Our last PC submission comes from user Thomas T, and he says, when you talk about Dark Souls, which words come to mind? For me, it's you died, obviously, and then there's the hollow state, nasty. So here, I made a hollow form Necros using a mixture of brown and gray colors to recreate rotting flesh and bone, and of course, the old tempered steel color for the weapons. Our hero is going after the Juggernaut Behemoth boss, readying his trusty Ack and Brunt, all out of Estus flasks, though. Okay, so I really like this submission because the hollowing is one of the most prolific things in the Dark Souls universe. Every time you die, you lose a certain amount of humanity, which allows you to retain a human-like appearance. Well, when you lose that humanity, you end up looking like one of these guys, and that's what I think that his fashion frame really kind of emulated, was one of these hollowed soldiers. So, very good submission, Thomas T. Let's move on to the console submissions. Alright, PC users, you did a fantastic job, but I got some really amazing submissions from the PS4 community. Let's take a look at those. Our first PS4 submission is from user Anchovies Buttermilk and is more of a concept of the Dark Souls theme than an actual character, but he says, "For my fashion setup, I choose to go with a sort of gargantuan guy made of stone, statue that guards a temple, or a sacred place of some sort. Having never played Dark Souls, I wasn't very familiar with the concepts and art of the game, but I have seen a couple boss fights and watched a lot of Bloodborne. I chose the Rhino Palatine skin because of its gothic and darkish look reminiscent of what I've seen in Dark Souls. Hulta leg and shoulder armor because of its smooth and swerving nature to somewhat add to the Made of Stone effect, and the Thrak Rhino alt helmet because it helped make him look a bit bigger. The Asvara Syndana was just too good to leave out. I colored him all white to try and match the stone, and it sort of seemed cool for a new look. He wields a great sword, which was bestowed upon him when he was made guardian of the temple, and had his soul transported to the statue stone. Once an impeccable warrior, don't let his size fool you, he hits faster than a ninja." Okay, so first off, man, really good submission. I really enjoyed this one, and when I first saw it, I have to admit that I wasn't really sure what it was supposed to be or how it fit into the Dark Souls universe of the theme that we were going for, but then I thought a little bit on it, and what it really reminded me of was the Giant's armor from Dark Souls 1. It looks very, very similar to that, so very good submission, dude. I had to choose this one after I kind of saw that correlation, and I'm really glad that you submitted this. Our second PS4 submission comes from user Matt Statutus, and he says, "Here, my Dark Souls 2 character is trying so valiantly to emulate my Volt, who is ironically trying to emulate my DS2 character. Little did he know, he just had to be himself. My initial thought for Volt was the Akin Brunt, which is very Dark Soulsy. Volt comes across as a nimble yet powerful character, as he hunts desperately to steal his souls back from the agents of the Brotherhood of Blood to keep himself from going hollow. I was able to achieve this color scheme primarily by using smoke and Grenier colors. I hope you enjoyed it." Well, Matt, I did enjoy this submission. Thank you so much for submitting your cosplay of your DS2 character. Very cool. It reminds me of some of the hollowed enemies from the Iron Keep, and even of some of the guys early on in the game, those hollowed soldier guys. Very, very cool submission. I very much enjoyed it. Thank you so much. Our last PS4 submission comes from user Sergio. He says, "Hello again. This time it was really challenging to find a good-looking frame based on this theme. I had to make some research because I've never played Dark Souls game before. Anyways, I was really inspired by Smelter Demon from Dark Souls 2. His head fits with Loki Prime's head, so I put some orange and red colors to make it look like fire. On the legs, I'm using the Dendra armor with a red color. I'm also using Broken War as the demon's weapon." Nice topic, by the way. Okay, so first of all, fantastic frame. Second, that submission gave me nightmares, because if I had a nickel for every time I've died to Smelter Demon, I would be rich off my ass. But I gotta say, dude, the way you put this together, it looks just like the Smelter Demon. The way you use the sigil for the chest looks like his little smelter stomach and everything like that. Great submission, dude. Fantastic job. Thank you so much. And that about covers it for our PS4 entries. Thank you guys so much for submitting. I had a lot of really great frame submissions. These were really awesome. Let's go ahead and move on to our last segment, Xbox. Alrighty guys, we are getting down to the wire here. We are in our last category, which is Xbox One, and I gotta say I'm really proud of you Xbox One users. You really stepped up after last week. Last week I had almost no submissions, and this time I had a ton more to look through. So guys, thank you so much for submitting. Let's take a look at our first Xbox entry. Our first Xbox entry comes from user Slager Bay. He says, "Hey Bouse, you kick ass." Aw, look at you trying to butter up the judge. "For my FX3 submission, I chose to have my Rhino cosplay as a Bereniki Knight, first encounter at the Bell Tower altar, from the first Dark Souls. I included a screenshot of one for reference. I chose the Palatine armor because it has a closer similarity to actual armor than Rhino's base skin. For the colors, I chose a combination of medium to dark grays and blue to simulate a look closer to that of armor. I have him wielding the Fragor because the pose is badass. There isn't any other reason than that. I had a lot of fun working on this, and I can't wait to see all the awesome submissions." Well, Slade, I gotta say, man, I really enjoyed your submission. The Bereniki Knights are a very cool enemy in Dark Souls, and they also have a really cool backstory as well, so if you guys are interested in that, definitely go check out their lore. But really nice submission, man. I really like the way you made Rhino look like him, and they actually also use a mace like that, too. The only thing you were really missing there was the tower shield, but otherwise, man, fantastic submission. Thank you so much. Up next, we have another concept frame from user Daryl Martin, and he says, "This is Lord Necros, Shadow Lord of the Dead. I chose black and white simply because Necros is, in my opinion, a dark and mysterious Warframe, and him being on the moon fits the dark and mysterious Shadow Lord theme perfectly." Awesome submission, Durrell. You know, the reason I chose this one is because it really reminded me of the Shadow set that you can get pretty late into the game in Dark Souls 1, and that was one of my favorite armor sets in that game. And when I saw this Necros, it really reminded me of that. It reminded me of my hollowed character getting its ass kicked all the time and wearing this set of armor. So thank you so much for your submission, man. Our last Xbox submission comes from user Syrupy Scorpion, and this isn't actually a Dark Souls submission, it's a Bloodborne submission, which is totally okay, and that really fits the theme. He says, Bloodborne may not have souls in the title, but I feel it's still in the same category as the other souls. So because of this, I made Eileen the Crow. Now because I don't have a PS4, I never played this game, but I just love her look. So because of this, I took my favorite frame and tried to copy Eileen's look by using blacks and dark blues to make it look like her robes. I then used the Lacera for her Blade of Mercy, just because it looks like the undual-wielded form of the weapon. Very awesome submission, Syrupy Scorpion. I love Eileen the Crow. She has a really cool backstory and lore, and her quest throughout the game, Bloodborne, is amazing to do. Really fun character, really awesome gear setup. I really like the way you use Zephyr, too, because not only is she a crow, a bird-looking frame, but she also has the Plague Mask-looking thing with her long helmet. So, very nice submission, dude. Thank you so much. And that covers all the submissions across all the platforms. So before we get into showing the winners, I want to show you guys some of the honorable mentions, which are some of the frames that I thought were really great, but I couldn't necessarily fit into this video. And as I always have to, I hate having to do this, but I have to choose a winner. And I really appreciate everyone's submissions. I read every single one of them. I looked at every single one of them. Here are some of those honorable mentions. Let's check them out. Alright, so pretty awesome, right? And like I said, it's always super hard for me to choose someone out of all the submissions I get to be the winner for each platform, or even be in the top 3. So that being said, I want to go ahead and reveal PC's winner, Tyhark. He had an awesome frame. It was the Orenstein frame, very nice looking, and as you guys can see, it wasn't necessarily the best looking frame. It's not a frame that maybe a lot of you would use on a daily basis in your missions, but as far as the theme goes, I thought it was very clever in how he put this together. A very beloved boss of the Dark Souls series. Nice job, dude, and congratulations for winning PC, Mr. Tyhark. Our next winner is from the PS4 category, and he put together an amazing frame. I really like the way he did this. Very clever. That user is Sergio18723 with the Smelter Demon frame. Very nice attention to detail. Awesome job for never playing a Souls game before, going and doing that research, and finding and putting together a frame that looks very, very close to something in the Dark Souls universe. Great job, dude, and congratulations. And last but not least, we have our Xbox winner, Slager Bay, for the Bereniki Knight cosplay. Very nice job, dude. It looks very similar to one of the Bereniki Knights in Dark Souls. Very good job. I loved your attention to detail, and like I said before, these aren't necessarily the best looking frames, but they do fit the Souls universe very well, and we did the best that we could with what we had available. Nice job, dude. Thank you so much for your submission. Okay, so that was pretty exciting, right? We had a lot of really good submissions. You guys put together some amazing Souls frames. Even some of you that have never even played the game before went above and beyond and did the research to try and figure out what a different Souls frame looked like, how you would incorporate that into Warframe, you know, and it's always really hard when you're trying to bridge the gap between two different games with two very different art styles, but I think you guys did a fantastic job. And once again, just know that I do read everything. I did look through every single submission that I got. I got almost 100 submissions again this time. Very, very good job, guys. If you didn't get featured, please, you know, be sportsmanlike, congratulate the winners, stuff like that. There's always next time. If this does really well and you guys really like this series, I'll continue to do these, and I'll continue to keep featuring people, so if you keep submitting, it's only a matter of time before you make it in. I really appreciate everyone that took the time to put together a story, or, you know, customize their frame, or do the research, everything like that, but I can only choose one winner for each platform. So that being said, I think what I'm going to do in the future, I talked to a couple people about this already, and I think what I might do is maybe just remove the Platinum prize, so that way, you know, people aren't as salty if they don't win or something like that, or you guys don't feel left out. I was really thinking about that. Let me know what you guys think about that in the comments. Let me know what you think about taking out the Platinum prize. Now, as for next week's theme, I'm sensing kind of a spring feeling in the air, and you know, it's spring is coming up and everything like that. I want to see what you guys can do in putting together your best spring-themed Warframe, and kind of what I'm looking for is something with a lot of pastel colors, maybe not necessarily neon, stuff like that. You know, what do you guys think of when you think of spring, and how would you apply that to your Warframe? So, that being said, I really appreciate you guys for watching this episode of Feenux Fashion Frames Fridays. I hope you guys had as good a time watching this as I did putting it together and looking through your submissions, and I cannot wait to see what you guys put out next week. Until next time, I'll see you guys later, and thanks so much for watching. Have a good one.